Alhamdulillah wa salatu wa salam ala nabiyyina Mohamed wa ala alihi wa sahbihi wa sallam. Amma ba'da, habati fillah. I am doing this hopefully short video with the intent to answer a multitude of questions I get about so many individuals, personalities, and Dawa organizations. Like, is SPUBS Salafi? Is Mohamed Hijab Salafi? Is Ali Dawa Salafi? Is Tahir Wyatt Salafi? Is, on and on and on the list. Daniel, the one who graduated from Yale or something like this, is he Salafi? Okay, I've never listened to the guy. I don't know anything about him except for some few things that were sent to me. My point is, ahabati fillah, so many questions. And the beautiful thing about the Dawah to Salafiyah, it's a Dawah that's just. It's a Dawah to Ahlul Sunnati wal Jama'ah. That's first. Secondly, Salafiyah is mundabat, meaning that there's qawaid, there's principles, there's usul, there's foundation principles of Aqidah, creed, and minhaj, methodology, the way to call to the kitab and the sunnah, and it's muqayyid, it's fixed by the madhab of the Salaf. How was the Salaf of this ummah? How was the Sahaba radiallahu ta'ala anhum ajma'in? What were they upon? And the Tabi'een, witba' tabi'een. So it's muqayyid, and it's mundabat. It has principles in usul. So that means what I've always tried to teach, since I've been doing a little bit of Dawa on the YouTube, is always to try to give you more so principles. You see that I speak about people much less than others. I have, and on certain occasions, yes, I spent a bit of time, a little bit on Yasser Qadi, a little bit on Brother Nu'man Ali Khan, and others that I felt needed to be spoken about for certain things that came to me. I never went and did research on these guys to see how I could take them off of Salafiyah or what they were really on. I didn't really care. But it just came to me from people sending things to me and people wanting me to speak about certain things because they found it troubling. So now that we know that this minhaj is mundabat, that means it's not for me. I cannot really take someone out of Salafiyah or make someone in the minhaj of the Salaf, because it's mundabat. It has its own usul and qawaid and principles, and that's what keeps you safe. I'm telling you, it keeps you safe, because you will find so many times where even certain scholars go astray. They do. It's kulu yusibu yukhti. Everyone makes mistakes and everyone gets things correct, except for the Prophet sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So sometimes you find even scholars, okay, they might make a mistake in a mas'ala, or sometimes between scholars of the sunnah, sometimes hawa interjects between the relationship, and it becomes a thing of desires. And you can see it if the refutations are not knowledge based, if they become hawa based, and that happens. So what about all the du'at and the stuff in the West? Of course, min bab al-awla, they're going to fall into mistakes and so forth. Now, when it comes to determining these things, so it's not based on my view, whether I think he's Salafi or he's not Salafi, or whatever the case may be, because all that is with Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, but it has to do with how do they fit the criterion that has been established by the Salaf as-Salih. So if we see a group of brothers or certain brothers who say we are the Salafis, saying that they represent Salafiyah, when in fact they have so many things that that destroys their Salafiyah because of their Hizbiyah, because they call to themselves, they call to their crew, they try to co-opt du'at to only join under their banner, only give dawah under us. Well, that is Hizbiyah, Ayn al-Hizbiyah. So then we can check that off the list as being some things that are very serious that go against Dawah to Ahl Sunnah, because they go against, it can go to a level of cultism or shirk even. That if you believe that Sheikh so-and-so or Da'i so-and-so, his statement precedes all things, Some people even will say statements and they equate it to the Quran, and I'm not lying. That those people go to shirk. So maybe they say they're on Salafiyah and they might even leave the fold of Islam. And that becomes from a lack of fahm and nusus. That's because they don't understand the text and they're not calling to the book and the sunnah, and they're not traversing the path of the book of the sunnah and the minhaj of the salaf. Then you have another group that throw away all the qawaid, or so many. They might have some things that are correct, but then they have some big blotches of things related to Aqidah or Minhaj al-Salaf that they've totally cast aside, or they're just totally not aware of. So we can't say that they're from Ahl Sunnah. We can't say that those people are from Ahl Sunnah and they're on the Minhaj al-Salaf. Abadan. They're not. Then you have another group that has so much muwafaqah. They have a lot of things in which they agree with on Salafiyah from the usul, but then one issue, an issue of takfir. Well, from what we see from the books of the Salaf and what we hear from the scholars of Ahl Sunnah, is that takes them out of Salafiyah. How is it you can take a takfiri, bloodthirsty ISIS supporter as from the Minhaj of Ahl Sunnah? No, we can't accept that. That's not acceptable. And it goes against those nusus and those qiyud, as we mentioned. So it's very important, Ahabati Fillah, that we always operate, and that's why I say always, you always hear me say, atlab al-ilm, seek knowledge. Don't go into these issues too much, but of course we're going to have to deal with them sometimes, but seek knowledge because that gives you those tools, and it gives you some insight, and it gives you some fiqh, some understanding, and it gives you something to where you can make your criterion. You can't say, so-and-so, he's from this culture, he's from this nationality, he can't be Salafi. No, you can't say that. It's not about race, it's not about nationality, it's not about Ghaliba, it's not about the one who has the most popularity and so forth. But it's based on these usul i'tiqad Ahl Sunnah. Let me just read one short statement of Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, and that'll give us a little bit of insight. So Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah, in the end of Aqidat al-Wasatiyah, he talks about the importance of manners. He talks about the importance of akhlaq and doing righteous deeds, and the aqidah of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, and the minhaj of Ahl Sunnah, and that Ahl Sunnah is away from tafarraq, splitting up into groups and the sects into hizbiyah. Ahl Sunnah is away from that stuff. So he says, وَكُلُّ مَا يَقُولُونَهُ وَيَفْعَلُونَهُ مِنْ هَذَا وَغَيْرُهُ فَإِنَّمَا هُمْ فِيهِ مُتَّبِعُونَ لِلْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ وَطَرِيقَتُهُمْ هي دين الإسلام الذي بعث الله به محمد صلى الله عليه وسلم. Shaykh al-Islam ibn Taymiyyah was talking about the sifat of Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah. And I can't wait to teach this book again because it's just such an important reminder for us. He says, وَكُلُّ مَا يَقُولُونَ وَيَفْعَلُونَهُ يقولونه ويفعلونه من هذا وغيره. He says everything from what they say, meaning Ahl Sunnati wal Jama'ah, the Salaf, and that they did from these things that he mentioned, and other than it, then verily they, meaning those who are practicing that and those who are following that, مُتَّبِعُونَ لِلْكِتَابِ وَالسُّنَّةِ, then they are following the book in the Sunnah. وَطَرِيقَتُهُمْ, and their path. Perhaps this is referring to the path of Ahl Sunnah. هِيَ دِينَ الْإِسْلَامِ, yes. Their path is the deen al-Islam. It is Islam. That's what Islam haqqan really is. It's not progressivism. It's not the modernist ideology. It's not extreme tasawwuf. It's not the Rafida. It's not all of these ideologies. It's not the minhaj or the methodology of Ikhwan al-Muslimin wa Jama'at al-Tabligh. That's not what it is. That's not Islam haqq. That's not what it is. He says, "Alladhi ba'ath Allahu bihi Muhammadan sallallahu alaihi wasallam." It's what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was sent with. And subhanallah, look at all the people who look for masalih wa mufasid to try to get away from what Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam was on. They say, no, well, we need this, we need riba, we need this, we need this. They do all sorts of the major haram and munkarat, and then they want to say that attribute themselves to Ahl Sunnah. Well, that is absolutely batil. So that is another point, Habitifillah. Look at that. If we see people who are trying to make what is clearly haram, what is clearly against the nusus, halal, then you know that they're not from Ahl Sunnah. Ala aqal. Okay, you know that. So those are just some of the things that we need to look at. We need to have that criterion. That means you need to study. So that way you can make some of these determinations yourself, not just based on blind following. Is he Salafi or not? Is he from Ahl Sunnah or not? And then you take the call of so-and-so. Well, if so-and-so is from the thiqat from Ahl Sunnah, from the scholars of Ahl Sunnah, or at least tulab al-ilm, that are known for the truth and known for adhering to that madhab, then yes, of course we ask them and we trust them. But however, the more knowledge you get, the more tools you can get, so at least you can have educated questions, and at least you can have a way of looking at the evidence that hopefully is being presented to you. We ask Allah the Almighty to accept our good and forgive our evil. Sallallahu alaihi wa sallam ala nabiyyina Muhammad.